When most people think of Kazakhstan, they imagine endless steppe, maybe a desert, maybe a mountain, but 15 birds you can't find anywhere else on Earth. Yeah, no one's expecting that. Welcome to one of the most underrated birding frontiers in the world, where the sky stretches for miles, the landscapes flip from icy peaks to blazing salt flats, and the birds are wild. We're talking eagles the size of golden retrievers, ducks with porcelain masks, and a songbird so black it absorbs almost all visible light. No joke. Some of these species are found only here. Others migrate thousands of miles just to raise their young in Kazakhstan's forgotten lakes and silent plains. And a few, they might not survive the next decade if no one pays attention. So here's the big question. How does a country most people overlook hide birds the whole world should be watching? In this video, we're counting down 15 rare, mysterious, and absolutely one-of-a-kind species that call Kazakhstan home. You've never seen birds like this. Let's fly. Okay, pop quiz. What's big, scary, hunts fish, and looks like it flew straight out of a Viking legend? If you said bald eagle, I get it. But we're in Kazakhstan now, so meet its lesser-known, slightly goth cousin, the Pallas's fish eagle. This bird is massive. We're talking a wingspan of over 7 feet, talons like meat hooks, and a stare that could cancel your entire personality. It soars over lakes and rivers with the kind of confidence that says, yeah, I'm the apex here. But here's the wild part. No one really talks about it. Despite being one of the rarest eagles in the world, the Pallas's fish eagle flies way under the radar. It breeds in isolated wetlands in Kazakhstan, parts of China, and a few mystery lakes in Central Asia. No big nests on cliffs, no dramatic forest scenes, just quiet lakes, reeds, and the occasional unlucky carp. Fun fact, the Pallas in its name refers to Peter Simon Pallas, a German zoologist who explored the Russian Empire in the 1700s. He named a bunch of animals, but let's be honest, this one might be his flex. Now here's the twist. Even though it looks fierce and commanding, this eagle is critically endangered. There may be fewer than 2,500 individuals left in the wild. Wetland loss, disturbance, poisoning, it's got a checklist of threats no bird deserves. And the real kicker? Despite its size and presence, it's incredibly elusive. Even veteran birdwatchers can spend years in Kazakhstan and never get a glimpse. It's like the boss-level Pokemon of the birding world. So here's your question. If one of the world's biggest birds can go mostly unnoticed, what else are we missing out there? Let us know in the comments. Because coming up next is a bird that flashes white wings through the steppe like a visual glitch, and it's found almost nowhere else on Earth. What do you get when you cross a field bird with a flash grenade? You get the WhiteWinged Lark, a little bird with a serious case of blink and you'll miss it. At first glance, it looks pretty unassuming. Brownish, streaky, kind of small. The kind of bird you'd expect to see hopping through dry grass, minding its own business. But when it takes off, boom, 2 bright white wings explode into view, flashing like a strobe light across the Kazakh steppe. And just like that, it's gone. This lark is found almost exclusively in Kazakhstan and a few parts of southern Russia. It's a true child of the open steppe, flat, windy, endless, and it thrives where other birds would just give up and take the next flight south. Fun fact, most larks are known for their songs, and this one is no exception. During breeding season, males fly upward in a spiral and sing as they climb, then suddenly dive bomb back down while flashing those signature wings. It's like performance art, but with feathers and zero safety gear. Here's the twist. The white-winged lark is now declining rapidly. Habitat loss from agriculture and overgrazing has shrunk its breeding range. Once widespread, it's now listed as vulnerable, which feels weird, right? Something so visible becoming invisible, 1 year at a time. And here's what makes it even sadder. Unlike tropical birds or mountain specialists, this lark has nowhere else to go. The steppe is its whole world. Take that away, and it's not just a bird in trouble, it's an entire ecosystem losing its voice. So here's your question. If a bird sings to an empty steppe and no one's around to hear it, does it still matter? Drop your thoughts in the comments and stick around, because next up is a bird so black it looks photoshopped, and it only shows up in this one remote corner of Central Asia. All right, what's pitch black, sings like a pop star, and only shows up in Kazakhstan like it's too cool for the rest of the world? That'd be the black lark. Now, when we say black, we mean it. The males of this species are jet black, so dark they almost shine purple in the sun. If Batman had a bird form, this would be it. But unlike bats, this bird lives in open, sunny steppes, mostly in northern and western Kazakhstan. Yeah, just to flex. And it's not some emo bird hiding in silence. This lark sings, loudly, constantly, and from midair. It launches up with big looping wing beats, hovers in place, and lets out long, warbling melodies that echo across the grasslands. Fun fact, that smooth song, it's not just for show, it's part of an aerial display to attract females. The higher the note, the hotter the lark. Well, evolutionally speaking. But here's the twist, and it's kind of poetic. Only the males are black. Females, totally different. They're brown, streaky, and camouflaged, basically the opposite. Like the bird world's version of opposites attract, the black lark is near endemic to Kazakhstan, with just a small spillover into southern Russia. That makes it one of the most unique species on this list. Hyper-local, ultra-striking, and criminally underappreciated. Unfortunately, like its white-winged cousin, it's now declining in numbers. Agricultural expansion and habitat degradation are closing in fast. These birds need wide-open, untouched steppe to survive. And let's just say, tractors don't care about bird songs. Which brings us to a weird thought. This lark looks like a shadow and sings like a dream. But what happens when the land goes silent? So here's your question. Do we notice beauty more when it's loud and bold, or only when it starts to disappear? Let us know your take in the comments. Coming up next, we're leaving the grasslands and heading to the lakes, where a prehistoric-looking giant with a throat pouch is quietly stealing the show. If I told you one of Kazakhstan's rarest birds looks like a dinosaur in a feather boa, would you believe me? Meet the Dalmatian Pelican. And no, it doesn't have spots. That's just the name. Blame taxonomy. This bird is huge. I mean really huge, with a wingspan over 11 feet. That's longer than a compact car. And when it takes off over a still Kazakh lake, it looks like a low-flying dragon. Its plumage is silvery white, with messy curly head feathers, like it woke up from a nap it wasn't ready to end. Its throat pouch, bright orange in breeding season, like it swallowed a traffic cone. Dalmatian pelicans can be found across parts of Europe and Asia, but Kazakhstan is one of the last strongholds for breeding populations. Remote wetlands like Lake Tengiz and Lake Balkhash are crucial refuges, quiet, nutrient-rich, and for now mostly untouched. Fun fact, this is one of the heaviest flying birds on Earth. Despite that, it's surprisingly graceful in water, gliding like a feathered cruise ship and gulping down fish like it's on an all-you-can-eat buffet. But here's the twist. These giants are incredibly sensitive. Disturb their nesting colonies with boats, noise, or pollution, and they'll just leave. Entire colonies gone. That's why Kazakhstan matters. It still has the kind of wild, undisturbed wetlands where these pelicans can raise their young in peace. But with rising water demands, irrigation, and habitat disruption creeping closer, peace may not last, which makes this bird a strange contradiction. Big, bold, dramatic, and yet quietly slipping away just beneath the surface. So here's your question. If something that large can vanish without us noticing, how much of nature are we simply missing in plain sight? Tell us what you think in the comments. And next, we're trading giants for ghosts, because the bird at number 5 is one of the most endangered ground birds on the planet, and it breeds only in Kazakhstan. All right, what bird wears a tuxedo, nests in the steppe, and throws one of the longest, weirdest migration parties in the world? Meet the sociable lapwing, a bird so rare and oddly charming, it sounds made up. At first glance, it's not flashy. Earthy browns, a black crown, and a white face with a neat little mask. It kind of looks like it's wearing a helmet and ready for a desert soccer match. But this bird is a world traveler. Every year, it breeds almost exclusively in central Kazakhstan, on open steppe and agricultural fields, then migrates thousands of miles to wintering grounds in the Middle East, Sudan, and even parts of India. And it doesn't do it alone. It migrates in large, chatty flocks, hence the name sociable. Think high-speed bird road trip, full of GPS arguments and snack stops. Fun fact, for years, scientists couldn't figure out where these birds went in winter. Like they just vanished. Only recently, with GPS trackers and lots of patience, have researchers pieced together their secret route. Turns out, they don't like being predictable. But here's the twist. There may be fewer than 15,000 left in the world. That's not many, especially for a bird that tries to act social. Habitat loss, illegal hunting along migration routes, and climate shifts have hammered their population over the last few decades. It's now listed as critically endangered. And here's the kicker. Even with modern tech, we still don't fully understand how they choose breeding sites year to year. One season they're here, the next gone. It's like they're trying to stay hidden, even when they're surrounded by 50 of their closest friends. So here's your question. If being sociable can't save a species, what will? Drop your answer in the comments. Next up, we're climbing into the mountains, where a stealthy snowbird lives on cliffs, echoes off canyons, and somehow looks more like a myth than a game bird. Some birds hide in bushes, some birds hide in trees, and then there's the Caspian snowcock, which hides in entire mountain ranges. This bird doesn't do low elevation. It lives way, way up, on remote cliffs above the tree line, where the wind never stops and the rocks don't forgive. We're talking 2,500 to 4,000 meters up in the Tian Shan and Alatau mountains of southern Kazakhstan. And what's it doing up there? Surviving, quietly, elegantly, and maybe laughing at humans who can't even walk a trail without wheezing. Visually, it's a stunner. Gray and chestnut feathers, snow-white underparts, and a black necklace-like collar. It blends perfectly with scree and stone, which is why most people don't even know it exists. Heck, even seasoned hikers walk right past it and never notice. Fun fact, its call echoes across valleys like a strange, whistling laugh. Locals say you'll hear the bird long before you ever see it. And when you do see it, it'll be flying away from you at top speed. But here's the twist. Despite looking like a rugged alpine warrior, the Caspian snowcock is surprisingly sensitive to human disturbance. Road construction, mining, and expanding tourism are starting to push into its high-altitude strongholds. Worse, this bird isn't migratory. It can't just fly somewhere else when the terrain changes. Its entire strategy is based on staying hidden in the harshest places imaginable. And if those places go away, so does the snowcock. It's not endangered yet, but it's a classic example of a species perfectly adapted to a narrow niche. And when that niche shrinks, nature doesn't always offer a plan B. So here's your question. Would you trade safety for invisibility if it meant surviving where no one else could? Let us know in the comments. And coming up next, we leave the cliffs and enter the ancient desert, where a bird that looks part ostrich, part mirage stalks the sand like something out of a forgotten myth. Imagine you're crossing the Kazakh desert, heat shimmering, horizon endless, and suddenly a bird the size of a toddler just struts out of the dust. That's not a mirage. That's McQueen's bustard. This bird looks like it wandered out of a prehistoric documentary. Long legs, elegant neck, big body, like a mini ostrich with better posture. But don't let its calm walk fool you. When it needs to disappear, poof, it melts into the sand like a pro-illusionist. McQueen's bustard lives in arid plains and deserts across Central Asia, including the southern stretches of Kazakhstan. It's a master of camouflage, blending into dry scrub, moving silently, and crouching when danger nears. Fun fact, during mating season, the male turns into a full drama queen, puffing up neck feathers, stretching out his head, and doing a slow-motion moonwalk toward the female. It's like a desert fashion show, with zero music and a lot of attitude. But here's where it gets sad and real. This bird is heavily hunted along its migration routes, especially in parts of the Middle East, where bustard hunting is still considered a status tradition. Despite legal protections, the practice continues, and it's pushed populations into serious decline. Kazakhstan holds some of the last, relatively safe breeding areas, but even here, threats are mounting. Habitat loss, climate shifts, and illegal poaching all creep in closer each year. And here's the twist. Despite its size, beauty, and cultural importance, McQueens bustard is disappearing quietly. No headlines, no outrage, just less of them every season. Why? Because sometimes creatures that blend in too well get forgotten until it's too late. So here's your question. Should beauty alone be enough to make us care? Or does something have to shout to deserve saving? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. Up next, we're diving back into the wetlands to meet a duck with a powder white head, a stiff tail, and the kind of attitude that says, "Yeah, I know I'm rare. Act accordingly." You ever seen a duck that looks like it's wearing a fencing mask and also happens to be kind of a jerk? Say hello to the white-headed duck. This guy's built like a rubber bath toy, short, compact, and round, but with a bright powder white head, a thick sky blue bill, and a tail that sticks up like a stubborn hairdo. And get this, that tail, it's stiff and always held upright, kind of like it's too cool to swim like normal ducks. Found in a few isolated pockets of Eurasia, one of its most important strongholds is right here in Kazakhstan. Shallow, quiet lakes surrounded by reeds, especially in areas like the Korgalzhin Nature Reserve, are this duck's dream home. But don't be fooled by its cartoonish looks. This duck is a diving machine. It plunges underwater and stays down for long stretches, using those stubby little legs to zip around like a feathered torpedo. Fun fact, during mating season, the male headbutts the water to impress females. It literally smacks its bill on the surface and makes popping noises like it's beatboxing. Zero shame, maximum confidence. But here's the twist. This species is critically endangered in many regions, mostly because of habitat loss and, get this, hybridization. Yeah, it's been crossbreeding with introduced ruddy ducks in Europe, and scientists are now scrambling to protect the pure bloodline. Kazakhstan, though, still hosts wild, genetically stable populations. No weird duck drama here, yet. And while it's legally protected, pollution and water mismanagement still pose a huge threat. A single bad drought year? Boom, nesting season fails. Which makes this tiny, weird-looking duck a surprisingly serious conservation case. So here's your question. If something this small and awkward can fight extinction with that much flair, what's our excuse? Let us know in the comments. And next, we return to the sky, because coming up is a national symbol, a born hunter, and a bird so iconic, it made it onto coins. Some birds make you look twice. The steppe eagle, it makes you look up and stay there. This bird doesn't sneak around. It dominates the sky, wings stretched wide, eyes locked on the earth below, soaring like it owns every inch of airspace. And in Kazakhstan, it kind of does. The steppe eagle is more than just a bird here. It's a national symbol, printed on money, stamped on emblems, and held in high regard for centuries. And honestly, it deserves the hype. This eagle breeds across the vast open steppes of central Kazakhstan. Wide, dry, endless terrain that looks empty, until you spot that dark silhouette gliding overhead. It feeds on ground squirrels, hares, and carrion. Basically anything it can dive bomb or scavenge. And yes, it will sit next to a road and give cars side-eye while munching roadkill. Total apex attitude. Fun fact, unlike many eagles, the steppe eagle is migratory, traveling over 5,000 kilometers to wintering grounds in Africa and South Asia. It crosses deserts, mountains, and war zones like it's on a personal mission. But here's the hard truth. Despite being strong, fast, and iconic, the steppe eagle is now globally endangered. Power lines electrocute hundreds every year. Poison bait for pests also kills eagles. Habitat loss, shrinking their nesting grounds. It's like the modern world is playing defense against its own symbol. In Kazakhstan, it's still holding on, but just barely. Conservation programs are trying to reduce electrocution deaths, map migration routes, and protect breeding areas. Because if Kazakhstan loses this eagle, it loses part of itself. So here's your question. If your national bird was fading fast, would you even notice? Or would it disappear like just another shadow in the sky? Let us know in the comments. And coming up next, we leave the open skies and head for the reeds, where a tiny, mustached acrobat hops from stalk to stalk like a bird straight out of a cartoon. You ever seen a bird that builds a better house than most humans? Say hi to the Eurasian penduline tit, a tiny fluff ball with a big brain and a serious talent for design. It's small. We're talking ping pong ball small. But this bird, it builds suspended nests that look like fuzzy sleeping bags, hanging from reeds and tree branches like organic hammocks for the eco-minimalist lifestyle. And the craftsmanship? Top tier. Each nest is stitched together from spider silk, wool, grass, and fluff, with an entrance tunnel so cleverly hidden it could confuse a burglar. Kazakhstan is home to some of the cleanest populations of penduline tits, especially around river deltas, reed beds, and wetland edges. These birds don't love crowds, just peace, water, and good construction material. Fun fact, the male does most of the nest building. Sometimes, he builds multiple nests just to impress the female. That's right, this guy literally builds model homes to show off. Real estate hustle? 10 out of 10. But there's a twist. Once the female lays her eggs, either parent might abandon the other to raise the chicks alone. No warning, just, thanks for the nest, bye. It's cute, but cutthroat. While not endangered globally, the penduline tit's wetland habitat is under quiet threat in Kazakhstan. Drainage, agriculture, and pollution are slowly shrinking the reed beds where these birds build their masterpieces. No reeds equals no nests. And with no nests, the whole system starts to collapse. And here's the thing, most people never notice, because it's just a small bird with a small voice living in a big world that's getting louder and drier every year. So here's your question. If something so tiny can craft something so perfect, shouldn't we try just as hard to protect it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Next up, we're getting weird again, with a bearded bird that sounds like a kazoo, jumps through reeds, and looks like a cartoon villain in disguise. If Pixar ever designed a bird character and made it a little confused but very fashionable, this would be it. Meet the bearded reedling, aka the bearded tit. Now the name is misleading. This bird isn't bearded, and it's definitely not a tit. What it is, though, is one of the most instantly recognizable birds in Eurasia, especially in Kazakhstan's sprawling reed beds. Picture this, a tiny round-bodied bird with a long tail, peachy orange body, and a black mustache streaked across its pale gray face. Yes, mustache, like a tiny detective who's also in a jazz band. And here's the fun part. These birds spend their lives deep inside reeds, not around them, inside them. They hop, swing, and climb through vertical stalks like feathered ninjas doing parkour. Fun fact, in winter their diet changes completely. They go from insectivores to full-on vegetarians, chomping on seeds and adapting their gut to digest plant matter. Basically, they do seasonal keto. Kazakhstan provides ideal wetland habitat, especially around lake edges and river deltas where reeds grow thick. And the bearded reedling, it thrives there, if we leave the habitat alone. But here's the twist. Their populations are super sensitive to changes in water level. If the reed beds dry up or get flooded too fast, boom, breeding fails. A wetland bird that can't handle bad plumbing, classic. And because they rarely leave the reeds, these birds are incredibly hard to study. Most sightings are flashes of peach and gray, followed by a weird buzzy call that sounds suspiciously like a cartoon kazoo. They're not endangered yet, but habitat changes and human development are closing in. So here's your question. If a bird with a mustache, a parkour hobby, and a kazoo voice can't make us care about wetlands, who or what can? Let us know in the comments. And coming up next, We're heading back into open skies to meet a bird with elegance, drama, and a migration route that crosses continents with the grace of a ballet dancer in flight. Graceful, elegant, regal. You might think we're describing a ballerina, but this is a bird, and not just any bird, the Demoiselle crane. It's the smallest of all crane species, but don't let that fool you. What it lacks in size, it makes up for in drama and determination. These cranes have long, silky plumes flowing from behind their eyes, like mascara caught in the wind, and a sleek gray body that moves like it's gliding over an invisible runway. Every spring, they arrive in Kazakhstan's open steppes and semi-deserts, where they breed in quiet pairs, raising chicks in the middle of nowhere. No nests, just ground. Simple, elegant, crane style. Fun fact, Demoiselle cranes take on one of the toughest migrations of any bird. They cross the Himalayas, yes, the actual mountains, flying at altitudes over 5,000 meters. That's higher than most airplanes fly during takeoff. And they do this twice a year. No oxygen masks, no in-flight snacks, just pure wing power and will. But here's the twist. Even with all that strength and elegance, they're not immune to danger. Habitat loss in breeding grounds like Kazakhstan, disturbance from agriculture, and illegal hunting along migratory routes have chipped away at populations. They're not critically endangered, but their numbers are fragile, and Kazakhstan plays a huge role in keeping them stable. It's one of the main strongholds for breeding Demoiselle cranes in the world, and every year you'll see them dancing, yes, dancing, during courtship, hopping, bowing, fluttering. It's not just a ritual, it's a celebration of survival. So here's your question. If a bird can fly over the tallest mountains on Earth just to raise its chicks in silence, what excuse do we have for not protecting the ground they land on? Let us know in the comments. And next, we're following a rainbow streak through the sky, a bee-eating, bug-snatching, color-bursting species that turns the Kazakh summer into a moving art show. Imagine a tropical bird. Now place it in the middle of the Kazakh desert. What do you get? The blue-cheeked Beeeater, a flying rainbow with a bug problem. This bird looks like someone turned the saturation slider all the way up. Bright green body, teal blue cheeks, golden throat, black eye stripe, and wings that shimmer like sunlight through a prism. It's not the kind of bird you expect to see in Central Asia, but every spring and summer, they show up out of nowhere to breed in Kazakhstan's river valleys and dry steppe edges. And what do they do when they get here? They eat bees, non-stop. They catch them mid-flight with pinpoint accuracy, then slam them against a perch to disarm the stingers before swallowing. It's like a kung fu move, but for wasps. Fun fact, bee-eaters are so precise that they can tell which end of the bee to hit first. And yes, they intentionally de-sting their prey before dinner. No bites, no regrets. Their nesting strategy, underground. They dig long tunnels into sandy riverbanks, sometimes over a meter deep, where they lay their eggs in total darkness. So yes, this neon bird lives in a cave, because why not? But here's the twist. Despite being colorful and flashy, these birds are incredibly sensitive to changes in landscape. If riverbanks are disturbed, or if insect populations drop due to pesticides, they just don't come back. And the magic of Kazakhstan's bee-eater season? It's short, just a couple of months once a year. Blink, and you'll miss them. They're not endangered globally, but their presence in Kazakhstan is a seasonal gift, and it's tied to healthy ecosystems that are quietly under pressure. So here's your question. When a bird shows up just for the summer and paints the sky like a living brushstroke, do we notice it's gone when the color fades? Let us know in the comments. Next, we're shifting gears into darker skies, where a legendary black stork haunts the forests and rivers, rarely seen, rarely heard, and always unforgettable. Most people know the white stork, the cheerful, baby-delivering mascot of spring, but its shadowy cousin, that's a whole different story. Meet the black stork, a bird that's elegant, elusive, and just a little bit ominous. This stork wears an iridescent cloak of black and green, with white underparts and long red legs. From a distance, it looks almost unreal, like a character that wandered in from a folklore painting, and that's kind of fitting. Because sightings of black storks in Kazakhstan are rare and almost mythical. They nest in remote forested river valleys, far from human disturbance. Unlike their white cousins that love rooftops and chimneys, black storks want nothing to do with us. They're shy, secretive, and nest in tall trees or cliff edges, always near clean water. Because this bird doesn't eat garbage, it eats fish, frogs, and aquatic insects, fresh, wild, and preferably unbothered. Fun fact, despite their huge wingspan, up to 6 feet, they fly almost silently, gliding with barely a flap. You don't hear them coming, you just look up and boom, dark angel overhead. Here's the twist, Kazakhstan sits right on the migratory path for many black storks traveling between Eastern Europe and Central Asia. But their stopover sites? Rapidly disappearing. Wetland drainage, pollution, deforestation, it's all chipping away at the places this bird quietly relies on. And because they're so hard to study, we still don't fully understand how many even pass through Kazakhstan, or how many are silently disappearing before we even notice they were there. They're not endangered globally, but they're vulnerable, mysterious, and incredibly easy to overlook. And that might be the most dangerous thing of all. So here's your question. If a creature stays out of sight, never bothers anyone, and vanishes without a sound, do we still owe it protection? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And coming up next, we close our journey with a bird that breeds on only one remote Kazakh lake and might be the most endangered gull on Earth. Before we get to our final species, if you've made it this far into the journey, you're officially not just a viewer, but part of the flock. If you've enjoyed flying through the skies, trekking the mountains, and diving into Kazakhstan's hidden wetlands with us, consider hitting that like button. It helps more than you think. And if you want more rare birds, wild places, and stories most people never hear, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next flight. All right, ready for the rarest of them all? Let's meet a bird that barely made it into the history books and might not make it much further without our help. It's not flashy, it's not loud, and honestly, most people wouldn't give it a second glance. But the Relic Gull is one of the rarest seabirds on Earth, and Kazakhstan holds the key to its survival. Found almost nowhere else, this gull breeds on just a handful of inland lakes in Central Asia, and one of its most critical nesting grounds? Lake Alakal, right here in eastern Kazakhstan. It's not your typical beach bird. The Relic Gull has a clean white body, pale gray wings, and a soft charcoal black hood during breeding season. Its call? More like a whisper than a scream. It's quiet, dignified, maybe even haunted, which kind of fits. Fun fact, this species was only formally described in 1971. Before that, scientists thought it was just a weird-looking black-headed gull. Turns out it's a relict, a holdover from another time, hence the name. And now, it's hanging on by a thread. There may be fewer than 10,000 individuals left in the world. That's nothing. Climate change, shrinking water levels, pollution, and disturbance during nesting season are all hitting this species hard. And because it breeds in just a few locations, many of them unprotected, one bad season could wipe out an entire generation. Kazakhstan's role is huge. If Lake Alakal stays healthy, the Relic Gull has a fighting chance. If not, we may witness the quiet extinction of a species that never even made it to the spotlight. And here's the kicker. Most people have never heard of it. Not in books, not in documentaries, not in conservation campaigns. Just a pale bird on a silent lake, vanishing without applause. So here's your final question. If a species disappears and no one knew it existed in the first place, did we fail it from the start? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you've made it this far, thank you. Kazakhstan's birds may not be world famous, but now you know them. And maybe that's where change begins. Because sometimes it's not the loudest or brightest species that need our attention, but the quiet ones tucked away in the corners of the world, hoping someone notices before it's too late.